Upon the arrival of coach Ime Udoka last season, the Houston Rockets started to get the NBA's attention with their emerging defensive identity, so it's no surprise that their attempt to level up into contender status this season has started on the defensive end as well. This current Rockets team plays an analytically sound and hostile brand of defense, which has propelled them to have the second best defensive rating in the entire NBA currently, only behind the defensive powerhouse OKC Thunder. Although, in today's space and space era, you could argue that it is the other end of the floor that usually defines a team's championship ceiling, as 20 of the last 21 NBA champions have featured the top 10 offense. Well, looking at it, unlike recent championship teams, this current Rockets roster isn't built around a single game-changing offensive force like Steph Curry, Giannis, Nikola Jokic, or Kawhi Leonard, and they're also not built around a collective of shooters like the Boston Celtics team that Ime Udoka himself used to coach. Although these Rockets have a powerful offensive machine in fourth-year center Alperen Sengun, who provides perhaps the closest analytical and stylistical impersonation of Nikola Jokic that you could have from any current player in the NBA. While Şengün's numbers have dropped a little bit to start the season, but as of late has been putting it all together, averaging an almost 20-point and 10-rebound double-double on 50% shooting from the field since the beginning of November. But then the problem for Houston is, after 5 straight 20-plus point games to open the season, former number 2 overall pick Jalen Green has once again looked tentative, shooting a career-worst 46% in two-pointers and 32% from behind the arc for the season. Fred VanVleet, on the other hand, remains a solid veteran table setter on both ends of the floor, but has missed more than 2/3 of his three-point attempts this season. And overall, Dillon Brooks is currently the only player in Houston's rotation who's shooting above league average from the three-point line. Obviously, Houston as a whole is off to a great start to the season. They currently have the third best record in the Western Conference at 16-8, but the main concern is that their lack of offensive firepower could limit their ceiling in the playoffs. Looking at it, the Rockets currently have the 5th worst three-point percentage, the 3rd worst field goal percentage, and the worst assist percentage in the entire NBA. But you might be wondering, despite their underwhelming shooting numbers, why is it that the Rockets still currently have the 15th best offense in the entire league, and why do they have a better net rating than the Golden State Warriors or the New York Knicks, who have the best offense in the entire league? Well, apparently for the Houston Rockets, the first step to sustaining their offense even without top-tier shooting is relying on their top-tier defense. So what's good everyone, it's Real Balls here, and in this video, let's talk about exactly how the Houston Rockets are doing that. So let's get to it. Well, on paper, it's not surprising that the Rockets have really been good defensively. They have Dillon Brooks and Fred VanVleet, who are tough, hard-nosed veterans. They have Amen Thompson and Tari Eason, a pair of lengthy, hyper-athletic and scrappy wings, and they have a huge forward in Jabari Smith, who could basically guard anyone on the floor. All of those players can switch among multiple defensive assignments without giving up a lot of buckets. But if you come to think of it, Ime Udoka's switch-everything type of scheme would still fall apart if someone on the floor fails to hold up. Fortunately for Houston, even Alperen Sengun, who drew a lot of skepticism as a defender the past few years, has been making noticeable contributions as a plus defender this season. Well, with Ime Udoka increasingly deploying wings like Tari Eason, Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith, or Dillon Brooks to guard the opposing team center while also letting them freely switch onto primary ball handlers, Alperen Sengun has had a slightly different role on defense. Instead of being asked to primarily guard centers and to play drop coverage in the pick and roll, which is an area where he was typically taken advantage of in the past, this season, Ime Udoka has been increasingly using Şengün more in the same way he deployed Robert Williams with the Boston Celtics in the past, which is as sort of an off-ball roamer or help defender around the paint, who is also usually deployed to defend non-shooting guards. As a result, no other player in the NBA has seen his percentage of time spent defending centers drop from last season more than Şengün this season. And this new and simplified role he has on defense has actually allowed Şengün to use more of his size and understanding of where to be to bother opposing players near the basket, and has been highly effective playing this new role, as this season, Şengün has contested the 3rd most shots within 6 feet of the basket in the entire NBA. But more relevant to the Rockets is that when defending those shots, after allowing opponents to shoot almost 60% from that area last season, Şengün has allowed opponents to shoot just 54.8% within 6 feet of the basket this season, and that is the 5th best mark in the entire league, only behind elite defensive anchors like Chet Holmgren, Victor Wembanyama, Evan Mobley, and Rudy Gobert. As a much improved interior defender, Şengün has helped the Houston Rockets hold opponents to the 2nd lowest field goal percentage at the rim this season, only behind the OKC Thunder. In this possession, you can see Jabari Smith guarding the 7'2" Donovan Clingan in the high post, while Şengün here is roaming the paint. Clingan and Shaedon Sharpe run a handoff, which forces Clingan to get switched to the much smaller Dillon Brooks on the post. This is an outright mismatch, but as Clingan is about to receive the entry pass, you can see Şengün closing in and providing the help underneath as he goes vertical to challenge Clingan and to force him into a miss. Then in this play, you can see Şengün tasked to defend the ball handler Chris Dunn, but since Dunn is a non-shooter, Şengün can actually keep some distance from him. This allows Şengün to position himself around the paint and be in prime position to act as a helper, which is why he's able to provide help on Norman Powell's drive here. Powell makes the kick out pass to Dunn, but Şengün is also in position to go for the closeout, but as expected, Dunn bricks the shot. Although I'm also noticing that even when he's deployed in the pick and roll nowadays, Şengün has been showing some noticeable improvement with his lateral quickness and awareness. He's been playing higher up to touch when guarding ball screens to make sure that he's not giving up pull-up threes, but at the same time, he also does a good job of keeping the roll man in front of him. In this possession, you can see Şengün guarding the pick and roll. He placed right at the level of the screen, but since he knows that Isaiah Hartenstein isn't a threat from behind the arc, Şengün instead focuses on the ball handler, as he uses his size and verticality to wall off AJ Mitchell from getting an easy shot at the basket. Overall, with Şengün being a more reliable defender out of ball screen actions, Houston doesn't have to worry about packing the paint behind him anymore, which would have made it easier for opponents to make open kick-out passes to shooters. As a result, the Rockets have forced opponents to have the third lowest three-point rate in the entire NBA this season, and the Rockets being able to limit opposing team shot attempts from deep is really ideal in a league that's shooting more three-pointers than ever. But the thing is, the Rockets aren't just limiting opponents from shooting open threes, and they're not just defending the paint really well, but they're also forcing a lot of defensive stops. Currently, Houston ranks 6th in blocks per game, 10th in steals per game, and 13th in opponent turnover percentage. But more importantly, they're able to end possessions, as they have the 10th best defensive rebounding percentage in the entire league. And once the Rockets get the ball back, they immediately go on the attack. In this play, you can see Dillon Brooks defending Chris Dunn on the drive, who's forced to drop the pass to Zubac. He outfakes Şengün, but Dillon Brooks is there to provide the help, forcing Zubac to lose the ball. Amen Thompson gets the steal, and then just watch him go coast to coast, using his speed as he just splits his way against two defenders as he finishes with a slam. Then here, as the Kings launch a three-pointer, you can see Şengün with the box out on Sabonis. He gets the rebound, and he just makes the quick hit-ahead pass to Reed Sheppard, who gets the transition bucket on the other end. Overall, Houston scores just 92 points per 100 possessions in half-court situations, ranking just 25th in the NBA. But when they're attacking in transition, that number rises up to 127.6 points per 100, which is the 6th best in the entire league. Overall, Houston has recorded the 5th highest transition frequency in the league so far, and only the Denver Nuggets average more fast break points per game than the Rockets. As you can see, constantly pushing the pace in transition has been one way Houston has boosted their offense from terrible to above average. But obviously, even when you prioritize pushing the pace, a team would still have to spend at least 3/4 of their possessions in the half court, and the problem is, the Rockets' offense typically struggles against set defenses. But one way Houston has enabled their offense to thrive in the half court is by simply launching a ton of shots. Houston leads the NBA in field goal attempts per game, and they're doing this a couple ways. First, after being the most turnover-prone team in the league from the 2022 until the 2023 season, after Fred VanVleet's arrival, they have been really good at taking care of the ball, as Houston ranked 6th last season and now 4th in the NBA in terms of turnover percentage. But then, the other reason they get to attempt a ton of shots is that they just grab a ton of offensive rebounds. All of Houston's big men, Alperen Sengun, Steven Adams, and Jock Landale are strong enough to box their way out into their preferred position around the basket, while their wings, such as Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, and Jabari Smith have the quickness and athleticism to slice in between opponents in the paint. As a result, the Rockets have gobbled up almost 34% of available offensive rebounds on the floor, which leads the entire NBA, and that has led to them scoring 17.2 second chance points per game, which is also the second most in the entire league. Houston's ability to hustle for those extra possessions have just provided a major boost to a team that needs to find ways to produce consistent half-court shot making. Overall, the Rockets have 3 players ranking in the top 25 of the league in offensive rebounds per game: Şengün, Tari Eason, and Amen Thompson. And the crazy thing is, that trio has only played a total of 146 minutes together on the floor this season, but on those limited minutes, the Rockets have hauled a ridiculous 38% of their missed shot attempts. Well, Tari Eason's production deserves a little bit more attention. After missing most of last season with a shin injury, the 23-year-old forward is putting up ridiculous numbers off Houston's bench, averaging 17 points, 10 rebounds, more than 3 steals, and more than a block per 36 minutes. He's grabbing offensive rebounds on more than 10% of Houston's possessions, and so far, he's gotten away with blocks and steals on more than 4% of opponents' possessions. And to point out how crazy that is, only Hakeem Olajuwon and David Robinson have put up at least a 3% steal rate and block rate in the same season before, with Tari Eason on pace to join those legends this season. And then, of course, there's Amen Thompson, who currently has the 3rd highest defensive estimated plus-minus rating in the entire NBA. He is a super quick-twitch defender who brings so much energy on the floor and whose athletic ability clears probably 95% of the NBA right now. Right here, off the pass from Şengün, Thompson actually loses the ball, but then just watch him get back on defense, picking up Bob Carrington from way past midcourt. As you can see, he just doesn't give the guy any breathing room. Eventually, Carrington gives the ball up to Kuzma, who attacks, but then again, you can see Amen just walling him off here, forcing him into a tough shot in the paint. Then right here, you can see Amen guarding Jalen Brunson in isolation, completely closing off his driving lane without even fouling. Brunson instead decides to set up Anunoby on the handoff, and Tari Eason is caught off the screen, but Thompson takes the switch and once again plays excellent defense, giving Anunoby no space to launch a clean jumper. Well, Houston has definitely gone a long way so far by beating the crap out of opponents on the offensive glass, by forcing a ton of turnovers, and by relentlessly getting out in transition. But for them to increase their ceiling as contenders, they might need to display better shot making in the half court for them to thrive against the best defenses once the game slows down in the playoffs. Well, we'll soon find out if they can develop that kind of offense as the season goes on, but regardless, everything they've created on the defensive end of the floor right now, especially for an inexperienced roster, is really special, and it definitely gives them such a good starting point where they can build their case as a championship-level team. But do you guys actually believe that the Houston Rockets are already legit championship contenders? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and again, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Again, this has been Real Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.